And we want to now talk about the subject of the deal, which is the third integral of a sale. So we already talked about the wording of the deal. That's one integral of the sale, which breaks up into two, which is the offer, the proposal, Yani, and the acceptance. And then now we just finished talking about the second out of three integrals of a deal, the contractor. That also breaks into two, the seller and the buyer. Or whatever else, Yani. If it's renting, then it means, excuse me, the one who's renting it out and the one who's renting it. Now we're on the third of the three integrals of a sale, which also breaks into two.
Speaking of the contractor shift, excuse me.
Yeah.
Last week or so, you mentioned about if someone is authorized to do a sale for someone else, mashallah, that is it the case he has to buy what's in the one who did authorize his best interest?
Yes.
Can you give me an example of that?
Okay. So if he was supposed to buy a car, let's say, and he has a price range, so he's going to get for him the best car for that price, not other than the best car for that price. Like, not the worst car for that price, the best car for that price.
Okay. Well, what's this in the Arabiya, this type of authorization?
That's not a type of authorization. That's the authorization. The authorized person is obligated to do what's in his authorizer's best interests. That's the rule.
Mm-hmm. What is the authorized person called in this
Uh,
contract?
he's muwakkal.
Okay. Um, when Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam, it was a case that he was he a muwakkal for Khadija alayha salam?
Yes. You talking about when he was selling for her?
No.
So yes, because because the authorization actually is it is itself a deal, and sometimes it's part of another deal.
What's the
Like
deal
like if
in
you hired someone, to sell for you, then the authorization goes along with it.
mm-hmm.
Or in the partnership, sharika partnership, that's a deal in itself. But the authorization goes along with it.
Sure.
Hmm.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. So we say that the deal in itself is an authorization. It's authorizing somebody. That's the deal. And then by that, you know to do what's in the best interest. But the origin is you authorize a person.
We say there is a deal called wakala, authorization.
Okay.
So amongst the
Mashallah.
rules, amongst the rules of wakala is that the authorized person is obligated to act in the authorizer's best interests, even to the extent of giving him advice. Even just as advice only, he's obligated to give him the best advice.
So even when someone asks you about anything and advice on anything, is that a deal of wakala. Is that wakala?
Well, betrayal is haram. We learned in the book of obligatory knowledge that betrayal is haram. That includes giving bad advice on purpose.
Okay, in this issue of wakala, giving advice to someone, is giving advice to someone just in general. Going back to my question, is that called wakala?
No. Not that I know of, Yani. I never learned about that or heard about that. Wakala is when you authorize someone to act on your behalf.
But you said also advising someone, correct?
Yeah. So if you were an authorized person and then you were giving your authorizer advice, then you're obligated to give him the best advice.
Here we're talking about in transactions such as buying and selling.
We're talking about wakala. Wakala is its own deal.
Yeah.
That means you're acting on someone else's behalf.
Alright.
No.
I
Amin wa fi.
understand.
Okay.
It's clear.
Okay. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I just had a question in regards to what you mentioned earlier in the lesson about one being authorized to use the divorces.
Yes.
You said that the husband can even authorize a wife.
Yes.
How would that work?
By saying, I authorize you with my divorce, or one divorce, or two divorces, or all three divorces, for example, or a divorce. Yani, the wording of the contracts are, for the most part, very straightforward. You're just going to say what it is that you want. Just like you'd say, I sell this to you. I buy this from you. So you're going to say, I authorize you with such and such. Just like, for example, what if a man wanted another man to accept a woman in marriage on his behalf? So he's going to say, I authorize you to accept Fulana in marriage for me. Or something that means that. Like, didn't we learn about when it comes to making the intention for different worships? How does a person intend ghusl? He will say, for example, now I intend obligatory ghusl, or now I intend to lift the religious impurity, or now I intend. So something that means that is sufficient.
Okay, so in this case, whoever is authorized to use those divorces, they also have to do whatever is in the best interest of that husband or the one who authorized.
Well, I mean, I haven't. This is the rule I know. The authorizer is obligated to act on the authorized. The authorized is obligated to act on in the authorizer's best interests. This is what I know. So, but I didn't hear specifically. Now, in this case, he needs to look into his family issue to make sure that if he enacts that divorce, that this is going to be in his best interest. I haven't heard any details there.
Okay.
Amin wa fikum. So now we want to talk about the subject of the deal. This is the third integral of a sale out of three that can also be broken into two. So as you know, then that means there's two sayings. Either you say a sale has three integrals, or you say a sale has six integrals, because each one of the three can be broken into two. Money is either gold or silver bullion or merchandise. So every time I keep saying, you know what money means, so here it is. Money is either naqd or naqd, gold or silver bullion, or which we're going to call merchandise. Maybe there's a better word for but until I discover it, inshallah, I'm going to say merchandise. So all of your money breaks into two types: naqd, bullion, and merchandise. So gold and silver, that's one category, and everything else with a monetary value is another category. Why I'm saying with a monetary value? To exclude beneficial things that are not considered money religiously. Like what? What's a beneficial thing that's not money religiously? Who can give me a good answer? 5, 4.
Knowledge.
Other than that, something that might be sold though. 3, 2. And when we say sold, means it doesn't belong to the original owner anymore. 1. A dog.
What's the question?
A dog. The question is something that's beneficial, but it's not religiously money. A dog, a useful dog, not a useless dog. Even a useful one, like highly trained police dog, blind, seeing eye dog, sheep dog, guard dog, etc. Very useful. You can't sell it or buy it. It's not money. It's not merchandise. So, money is two things: bullion and anything else. That anything else, we're going to call it merchandise. So, you have a house. That house is money. Your house also has a lawn. That land, if you own it, that's money. You got a bush growing there and got some flowers, then that's all money. You got a rose bush, so you can clip those roses and sell them, for example. That's all money. Mal is the Arabic word. Mal. It is said that in Arabic, money is called mal because people have a mail for it. Mail means inclination. So money is either gold or silver bullion or merchandise. Which would be consumable or not? Consumable, the money is consumable or not consumable? Consumable means it goes away by using it. So a candle is consumable, and food is consumable, and ink is consumable. Whereas the house is not consumable, and the horse is not consumable, etc. A consumable cannot be the subject of a deal that requires the item's permanence, like renting and hiring, and borrowing items and endowing. So what we're saying here is, now when you're doing a deal, be mindful. What type of money does this deal require? Sometimes the deal requires non-consumable money. So you cannot rent out a candle. It's not valid. Or you can't rent a plate of food. The food, I mean. You can't rent the food. You can rent the plate, but not the food. So a consumable cannot be the subject of a deal that requires the item's permanence, like renting and hiring or borrowing items. So if I say to you, can I borrow your car? That's valid for you to accept. And someone says, can I borrow your pen, now there's some semantics that's come into play here, because there's an issue of the language barrier. Because in Arabic, there's a type of deal called aria. Aria. So this is the one that you can't accept. If we translate aria as borrowing, we're going to call it here borrowing items. That's how I'm going to coin it. Borrowing items. Aria. Somebody might say, can I borrow your pen? So according to what aria means, that's not valid. Because what he really wants is the ink in the pen. And the ink is consumable. And the subject of the aria can't be consumable. But if we're talking about just a pen, like it's a pen, you need to dip it into the ink pot, so it's not the ink he wants to borrow, it's only the pen, then that's valid. And endowing a waqf, then the money has to be non-consumable. Non-consumable here means doesn't go away by using it. So like, it's valid that you dedicate a fruit tree of some sort so that someone would eat the fruits from that tree. So the tree itself is not consumed. A deal cannot be completed when the subject does not apply to it. And whatever is exchanged for a seller's good or service is the price. So a seller, he's selling a good, that means an object. Or he's selling a service or a benefit, that means a right. So we said right or benefit. Two types of things you can buy. An object actually, or a right. And right here means a benefit. And what's your standard example? Who can tell me? When we say selling a right, there is a standard example that we learned. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like buying the right to have water routed to your land. Buying the right to have water routed to your land. So the scenario would be, for example, you have a parcel of land and you have a neighbor, and then there's a water source, a river, let's say, and your neighbor's property is between your house and the river, and you want to get direct access to that water. So you can buy the right to have the water routed to your land. And then, so if you do that contract, then a canal is going to get dug through your neighbor's land, bringing the water directly to your land. Now that's your right. And sales are permanent, not temporary. So you can buy that. And you can rent it too, if it's just a rental. So they might say to you, I'll rent to you. After a month, I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to block it again after a month. That's valid. So then what's that like? That's like how we get all our utilities, the electricity, the water. That's valid to have that routed to your land, but to your house, for example, or your apartment. So it's not the water itself you're buying or the electricity itself you're buying or renting. It's the right to have it routed. It's the routing. But issue is, what the kuffar do is they don't give you one standard Price. So what are they going to do? They're going to charge you to have it routed to you and then charge you for how much you use too. So that needs to be investigated. This case, the rules for that, I don't have details here. But it's learning the religion that at least makes that become clear. That there's something there. That's two different things. Getting that routed to you is one thing, and then how much of it you use, that's another thing. Originally, it's the routing that you're paying for. And then what comes to you comes to you. If the river dries up, then what you going to do? طيب. So whatever is exchanged for a seller's good or service is the muthman. That's the price. And the good or the service is the muthman. And whatever is paid for that is the price, the thaman, paid by the buyer. And then it's either valued or replaceable. But this part, I want to start with that next week. Bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. May Allah enable us to gather next week in safety and with no troubles or preventions or blocks. Ameen. So that we can talk about that from the top. Because really that's going to require some concentration anyway. So let's stop here. Do you have any other question I can answer for you? Yani, you're going to need to know about the difference between what's valued and what's replaceable because that's going to be significant when it comes to paying someone back or being paid back. Do you have to pay him back what it was worth, or do you have to pay him back a similar object, even if it didn't cost the same? So if it's replaceable, that means you're going to give back a similar object even if it didn't cost the same. That's if it's replaceable. If it's valued, then you're going to give what it was worth. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Question?
Yeah, because I'm trying to see the difference. I don't see the difference in that. I'm trying.
The difference between replaceable and valued?
Yeah.
So, for example, if I had a barrel of rice, let's say there's something called standard barrel of rice. So if I had a standard barrel of rice, and then you took that, let's say the standard barrel of rice is worth $50. When I bought it, that is. When I bought it, it was worth $50. So I bought it for $50. So then you took my standard barrel of rice unrightfully. Now you need to replace it. So this is replaceable. So that means you're not going to give me $50 for it. It means you're going to give me a standard barrel of rice. Now, what if you didn't find a standard barrel of rice for $50? You found it for $75. You still have to give me a standard barrel of rice, not the value. This is replaceable. It's not valued. It's clear?
All right. Can I give you this example?
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to call you later.
Sure.
I'll take from your time while we're on the subject. Which was a true story. A person was doing a job at someone's house, and a crib got damaged.
A what?
And who damaged?
A what got damaged?
A crib that a baby sleeps in got damaged.
A what?
A crib.
Oh, a crib. Okay.
Crib.
Uh-huh. That's valued. It's not replaceable.
Is it on? Not for shade. It's about, so you gotta get the value of it and then give the money.
Yeah. Not buy a new crib. Here, the replacement is not to buy a new crib. It's to pay the value of it.
was worth when it was used?
We'll look at what's the value, because depends on some things. Because you have, for example, how much it cost when you bought it, how much it cost when it was destroyed, how much it ever costs, for example. So we'll see, what does the value mean here.
Okay.
And just for your information, for clarity for you, why this is not replaceable, because it's made of components.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you why.
Yeah. Because it's made of components.
And what components? Why is that? I want to say is that the case because components differ.
Yeah. Made of components means has ingredients. Yeah, that differs then. As opposed to my standard barrel of rice, all the rice grains are made of the same thing. It's the same substance. It's like one thing.
The value. Okay.
So according to that, then cheese is going to be valued, not replaceable. So that's why I don't mind the question now, but that's why I wanted to save this part for next week so we can start from the top, because it requires some concentration. But you can ask me if you want.
Yeah. Okay. Inshallah. We'll wait till next week if I have to.
Okay, inshallah. Ameen wa fikum.